I ask that you chant my name, Hipster Snek!
Hipster Snek. Hipster Snek. Nothing's happening.
The button. You gotta push the little button.
What button am I pushing? I see all these buttons.
Like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. You should click them right now, if you haven't already.
I'm leaving.
Wait, no, cut. Welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Yeah, you fool. I am actually UltraMan Belial, and I was the whole time.
Ah, that would be quite a twist. You see, dear boys, girls, pilgrims of all ages. I don't know. I don't know if we've been particularly obvious with it or not. But as it turns out, we are huge fans of a little something you might know as UltraMan.
I think this is something that just came up recently. This is not something we've been harping on for years and years and years.
I mean, off and on again, I think it's probably fair to say. And the thing is, while Kamen Rider and Super Sentai remain relatively obscure in the West because Toei hates success and money, Subaraya Productions, the people who created and maintain Ultraman to this day.
Okay. We need to add an asterisk in that, a gigantic asterisk. Whoa, it's the 90s, radical. Oh my goodness, we need teenagers with attitude. Version of Super Sentai.
I chose my
Saban
words.
Butcher.
Yeah, I chose my words very deliberately because Power Rangers is okay, guys. This is the hot take of the episode. Power Rangers is just Super Sentai, but much, much, much worse.
Ooh, you're several states away, and I can feel the microwaves coming off of that hot take.
It's like, okay, here's the thing: is Power Rangers fun? Yes, absolutely. I will give that. Power Rangers is fun, but the thing is, Super Sentai knows when to laugh at itself and not take its own core concept seriously. A la Car Ranger. Power Rangers really just needs to get over itself and laugh. And I think that's the thing that's holding it back.
I was about to say, Car Ranger is fantastic, and it kind of shows, if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it is quite possibly one of the most dystopian science fiction shows where literally a small-time youth gang is terrorizing the galaxy because the galactic police is so butt backwards that they can't even take care of something like a small-time gang. But at the same time, it's really, really funny. The one little kid just keeps getting kidnapped, and he's just so used to it by like the 15th episode. He's like, you guys are kidnapping me again? Well, okay, but
all right, we're doing this again. Okay. Yeah. You see, that's the thing, is Tokusatsu needs to learn when to laugh at itself. And that is something that Ameritoku struggles with. You know, the series that paradoxically did that well was actually tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. Yeah.
I say, are you going to bring up Super Samurai Cyber Squad or Tattoo Teenage Alien Fighters?
I never actually saw Superhuman Cyber Samurai Squad. I want to. Like, I think it'd be really interesting, especially because it is canon to Gridman, but like I haven't yet. Um,
You mean it's canon to Ultraman because he's an Ultra brother.
that's true.
He legit is an Ultra brother.
He is considered an
I
Ultra.
want to say that the Subaraya YouTube page has it up it's subbed though, but
Well, yeah,
it's subbed in Japanese because it's actually an American show, technically
right.
speaking.
With yeah, kind of they gave it the Power Rangers treatment with just a Subaraya production instead of a Toei one. Yeah, Toei has had an interesting attempt at bringing Kamen Rider outside of the immediate East Asian region, which is really interesting when you know that several modern Kamen Riders were actually fully dubbed into English in the Philippines. Like, they could easily just take the English dub from there, distribute it worldwide. And, like, they went up to Kamen Rider Wizard, I believe. Um, so, like, it's already, the work is done for them. And then they could just subtitle everything else, and you're golden. Like, it would be worked fine.
Oh, I was going to say, but you see, then they'd have to, remember that Wizard was actually a thing, at which point you'd be like, oh man, they don't, they keep forgetting my boy, my magic boy.
Wizard was underrated. Wizard was actually really good. Now, that's not here nor there. Toei has had a rough launch in outside of the land of the rising sun, mostly because they won't get over themselves and they're too copyright happy. Subaraya, on the other hand, is just like, sure, everything is canon. We're going to sort of throw everything out, including these weird, obscure 80s anime OVAs like the Ultra Kids and stuff. And all of it's canon and all of it's real. And we're embracing all of it on a regardless basis. And yeah, even the weird Ameritoku stuff.
You want to know why? It's because Subaraya basically went bankrupt there in the early aughts. Guess what, Toei has been able to get away with because, they have Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Dragon Ball, and also One Piece. So basically they don't need to worry about, actually catering to anyone other than, Japanese nerds. And also being like, hey guys, it's the 1980s. No one does anything at home anymore. Stereo systems, well, you're going to have to pay in order to use your stereo because I'm a Japanese mega corporation. So, yeah.
Yeah.
This also goes for Nintendo. Yeah, people are like, oh my goodness, Nintendo just suddenly was like, okay, this is going to be my super hot take. The entire Nintendo is not your friend. They are not the friends of gamers. The entire reason why rental laws and regulations are the way they are is literally because in the 1990s, Nintendo tried to basically pressure lawmakers to adopt regulations similar to Japan in terms of renting video games. And ironically, in a bizarro, this must have been opposite day, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals basically was like, yeah, that ain't happening, fam. And they actually stood up for the average consumer rather than what the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals usually does, which is, a little guy. Yeah, they're my favorite type of shoe that I like to step on every day because I live in basically, the west half of the United States.
Yeah.
That's literally like 50%. Yes. Welcome to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It literally is always.
The thing that Subaraya basically decided to do was, we're just going to embrace it. We're going to launch everything. We're going to license everything. Like, I think everything is through Shout Factory, and like only one or two licensing companies hold like all the collective rights for the international distribution of the Ultra series now, which is why it's super easy to actually find the series and movies on DVD now.
In America, it's Mill Creek Interactive. I want to say are the reasons why you can get all of them now.
Yeah, and like they're making a big push. There's the Tokushoutsu streaming site, where you can basically watch like almost any recent Ultra. Um, and they're slowly getting some other toku. But here's the thing: if you're at home right now, scratching your head without the slightest clue of what we're talking about, way back in 1966, there was this fella named A.G. Tsuburaya. And if you're a big Toku fan, like for instance, you really enjoy this little film, might have heard of it, Godzilla King of the Monsters from 1954, you might have heard of him because he was one of the special effects guys for the very first Godzilla film.
More than that, he basically was the special effects engineer for a number of science fiction fantasy. Basically, and he also is part of the reason why, if you look at a lot of Japanese science fiction from about that period, in the 1950s, 1960s, you go, why are these so silly and weird? And then you hear like this thing of, oh, why didn't you just use stock footage of a horse for this one, scene that's supposed to have a horse? And he goes, I thought it would be funnier if I made a, really unconvincing puppet of a horse for this one scene. And so he did. I want to say it was King Kong versus Frankenstein.
Oh,
and yes,
yeah.
it is exactly the movie is exactly what you would imagine, and it is awesome. And I'm pretty sure Mystery Science Theater 3000 did a review of it to just show you, that is that type of movie, and it is awesome.
Well, of course. And I mean,
So yeah, he's not a small name in
no.
Japanese cinema at that period.
Very big name. I'm using an example that American audiences run some risk of being familiar with. Hence the specific choice of Godzilla 1954. Now, that being said, he decided to start his own studio. And so he did. TLDR, he did. And
So he did.
So he did. And he pretty much hit the ground running. He started with Ultra Q, which I have not gotten to sit down and watch Ultra Q yet, but I have heard it compared to like the Japanese equivalent of the Twilight Zone, with a little bit of the X-Files peppered in for good measure.
Yeah, basically it's high concept science fiction, a lot more horror focused. It's a lot more like, what would the world be like if, everyone, was secretly pretending to not be human, and it turns out that, there were aliens living amongst us, type of thing.
Exactly.
Very 1960s, very cheesy, very campy, very of the period. But at the same time, though, a lot of the monsters that we encounter, for instance, a certain boy, rest in peace, Pigmon. Every single time you show up, you get murdered, basically.
Yeah, every time Pigmon gets to show up on screen, he gets exploded. It's a tough life.
By none other than Red King. Didn't you, wasn't one of your guys in Ultra Kaiju Monster Ranger Red King? I know he's in the game.
I did raise a Red King, yes. I forget which type he was. I only raised him a little bit because he was a placeholder because I was grinding out the event you need to do to get Ace Killer, which is quite a slog. We'll get into UKMR in a little bit because that's an interesting footnote as well. The sequel series to Ultra Q, they decided to take it in a slightly different direction. They took some mild inspiration from this little-known comic book character. Maybe you might have heard of him. It goes by the name of Superman.
Yes. Superman. You mean Batman's, number one sidekick / villain. Yes, I understand that.
Obviously.
Says Bronze Age Jimmy.
And, he's like, you know what? We can do that too. So they create this alien protector known as UltraMan. And UltraMan was there's a lot to explain because some of this has been retconned, but in the original series, he was an alien cop, and he was chasing an alien across the galaxy that ended up going to Earth. And upon landing on Earth, Ultraman accidentally just straight up murks a dude upon entry.
I was about to say, that doesn't really change. It's just they kind of elaborate on how the Ultra Brothers work and they're less of like cops on a beat and more like we are like legendary do-gooder knights errant.
Yeah. So he lands on Earth, accidentally blows up member of the Science Patrol, one Shin Hayata. And he's like, okay, so that's on me, and I'm really sorry about that, but this doesn't have to be the end. You and I, we can fuse together, and you'll become alive, unalived, and we will work together, and you can help me fulfill my mission of being space police. And Hayata's like, well, literally, what choice do I have in this situation? Let's do it. Hayata...
It's like you're going to lose whatever. You're going to lose whatever semblance of a personality you have, though. It's okay. Hayata said, I don't have one to begin with.
I didn't get one of those until the series was nearly over. Okay. So, you got to remember, Hayata was meant to be very much the standard do-gooder superhero archetype from that era. So he's really easygoing, and he's just kind of generically nice to everyone without any ulterior motive. And it's really not until the last 10 or 12 episodes where Hayata's allowed to be a little mischievous at times, or to do goofy, silly things.
Honestly, Ito, the weapons expert, is more the kind of the goofy goofball comic character.
Yeah, and a lot of the other Science Patrol members get a little bit more personality as a result.
I think he and Furuhashi.
Yeah.
I want to call him Arashi, but I think that's his character.
That was his character when he came back in Ultra 7, yes.
So I'm like, the problem is a lot of these guys come back in the semi-sequel series, so...
Yep.
And you have to understand that the professor and I, we basically watched them back to back, so...
Yeah, pretty much one non-stop marathon. You'll actually see a bit of this when Season 2 finally drops, because we do a whole Toku thing. It's fun. You'll love it when coming soon, trademark, registered, LLC.
It's okay. It's okay, Professor. They'll get a free copy of Half-Life 3 once they watch.
Season 2, yes, exactly.
Comes with a free copy of Half-Life 3.
So basically, Ultraman was very episodic, with the exception of the very first and very last 2 episodes. You could watch the series in basically any order and receive exactly the same experience.
You say that, but there are multiple times that the alien Mephilos and alien Balton show up, at which point they reference the earlier periods.
Well, that is true. There is some continuity.
Which is unfortunate because, honestly, the alien Balton episode, I think, that's one of the best ones, period. It's episode 4. And Ito has a really funny moment in that where he's like, I will try to communicate with the aliens. And so he just starts making up random words, at which point he's like, what does that mean? He's like, I come in peace. And he's like, I don't understand your stupid language. We're going to kill you. He's like, oh no.
Your stupid space language is too confusing for us. We can't keep up. Now, I will tell you a funny story. You know who's actually a huge Ultraman fan? Guillermo del Toro. I saw a video where they actually had a guy in the Balton suit show up, and he gets super fanboy over Alien Balton. It's so freaking cute.
That is really cute, actually. I like that.
Ultraman it's kind of standard sci-fi storytelling for the era. You see, like, oh, this was a leftover dinosaur that didn't die when the rest of the dinosaurs did, and Ultraman needs to punch it in its stupid face. Looking at you, Gamora.
Gamila, the one, hey
Oh,
guys, Jamala, okay guys, we need a monster. I know, we have the old Godzilla costume. Let's just put a frill on his back, and he's a new, super evolved iguana. We will
no,
never ever
that's
use...
Jirus. That was Girus, yes, where they put a Kermit the Frog frill on the old Godzilla costume. He was the very first kaiju that Ultraman fought, and he rips the frill off of him, and after he kills him, walks it over and returns it to him. And I'm like, I can't tell if you're trying to be like samurai levels respectful or if you're just taunting him at this point.
Probably could be a little bit of both.
Possibly. Jamalar was actually a really poignant episode because it's revealed there was a space expedition manned by people that went out into deep space and got lost for like 30 years. And when one of the survivors ended up being bombarded by space radiation and mutating into this huge rock monster named Jamalar, and his very nature had become so twisted that water physically burned him. And Ultraman basically had to like drown him in a lake to destroy him.
That's right. And I remember when we saw that episode and Ultraman gained the ability to conjure water out of nothing, and I'm like, and you turned to me and you were like, well, we've gone officially full Silver Age Superman. Ultraman could just do whatever he wants now.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
Ultraman wants water, he just makes water. He needs fire, he just makes fire. He just does what he wants. Like, some of this is explained.
To be fair, Ultraman Ginga can do the same thing, but his entire thing is elemental manipulation. So,
yeah, some of this is explained. Interest of fairness. Some of it gets explained. Some of it's just kind of implied. But yeah,
some of it. Yeah, just some of it.
Like, that's the thing. With Ultraman, you didn't really know what to expect. Some episodes were really, really, really silly. Some of them were, like, kind of weirdly somber. And there's one where, like, there's this huge skeleton dinosaur monster, and you expect it to be, like, one of the most terrifying things. And then Ultraman learns it's a baby of its species, and it's terrified of everything. It's like Ultraman goes to karate chop it, and it, like, hunkers down and covers its head with its hands, and he feels so bad for it, he can't even bring himself to hit it.
Ultraman does have a lot of situations like that. Like one of the episodes that really stood out for me, apart from the alien Balton, Ito trying to do interstellar communication, was the one where, and ironically, this was actually directed by Kinjo. I forget his name. I know he's Kinjo because he actually was the King Joe, the Ultra Kaiju, actually is named after him. And he's the one who is responsible for your boy Metron's, Ultra 7, sit down. I'm going to tell you my evil mastermind, back my plan. He's the one for that. He was also responsible for the Guts Alien department.
Gutsman!
I'm going to kill you, Ultra 7, and crucify you. Done. This is no way is going to be traumatizing to an entire generation of Japanese little boys.
Daddy, my favorite superhero just got crucified.
That's
nice. What is going on?
That's nice. Go back to, the paperwork mine. You need to do it for the honor of your family.
Here, little Kinjimoto, have a smooth, relaxing cigarette. You don't understand. It was a different...
It was a different time,
That's a multi-layered joke.
That's like 7 layers of jokes, yes. If you get it, you get it, and you'll be like, hey, I get it. If you don't, you'll just be scratching your head going, I don't get it. Is this some...
What are these guys on about?
Is this millennial humor? Is this millennials trying to copy Zoomer humor?
No.
But anyways.
But yeah, actually, that's a really important thing. Actually, why is the crucifixion thing a thing? And that is because
we should talk to that. We should talk about that later with Ultra 7 when it actually happens.
Fair point.
But the entire thing with that one, though, going back like 6 or 7 tangents, there was the episode where they had the monster graveyard, which actually was a thing that has like consistently been a thing in Ultraman. Is that there's just this area in space around Earth that is just filled with dead kaiju, and it's just like a very dangerous place just because of that. And oh, by the way, kaiju have this tendency, even though they're dead, that they don't stay dead. So what does the Super Science Patrol do? They go, I know, we'll hold Buddhist funerals for them, and that'll cause the kaiju to not want to come back and kill us. And weirdly enough, it works, except it also summons
this plan succeeds.
Weird. Well, it also like summons this weird Buddhist ghost kaiju, if I remember right. But they perform the funeral, and it causes him to go away. But yeah, it's one of those things where like this superhero that's just been murking monsters and aliens left and right literally goes, maybe they were just people too. It's not just it's not just treating them as monsters. It's they are life forms. They are people too. So
yeah, it gives him pause for thought, where he's like, maybe this is more complicated than we first thought, and maybe if there is a way to deal with a kaiju non-lethally, we should consider it. Now, obviously it's an action show, so most of the time the monster just explodes. But there are several where Ultraman actually helps the kaiju, or they move it to an environment where it will be undisturbed and able to live its natural life cycle without human intervention. There is a lot of that, actually.
Ultraman Geed, where he helps the one bird on, fly so he can get to his girlfriend.
Yep. If you're a man, you will fly to her and not complain about it. Yeah, okay.
Well, if you put it like that, I don't want to be a loser.
Jumping ahead a little bit in the timeline. In fact, actually, the important legacy of Ultraman 66 was the fact that it set a lot of precedents. The Ultras are known as the Silver Giants. They are very powerful. They are not infinitely powerful. They are just ludicrously powerful. They can manipulate energy, several of the elements, depending on Ultra. That varies a little bit. And they can fly, breathe in space, and they're powered by light. That is their thing. And the Ultras tend to be kind of goody two-shoes most of the time. Like, even the quote-unquote edgiest Ultras tend to be complete goody-goodies on the lawful good spectrum. That's just how they are. They mean well.
Except for, the guy who's immediately going to come back, which is like, I woke up and I decided, I chose violence. Or rather, violence was the question. The answer is always yes.
Yeah. Every rule has its exceptions. So then, they decided to do a sequel series. Now, it wasn't a direct continuation, because some of the actors returned, but they were playing different characters, which did cause a little bit of confusion at the time, apparently. Because Furuhashi returned as Arashi, and he was like a different character working in a different organization, the Ultra Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And they meet one Planet Man Dan, or Dan Moriboshi. Because if you're an alien and you need a secret alias, calling yourself Planet Man definitely will not draw any suspicion at all.
It's okay, guys. The fact that he took the face of a random Japanese hillbilly, they will never, ever find out that this was the guy that he took the face of. But it's okay.
Yep. No, what are you talking about? He's just Dad.
Can I just say, though, too, that, you want to talk about the dark and like high concept science fiction that occasionally happened in Ultraman just was ramped up to 11, where basically it was literally the Outer Limits, but with giant monsters.
You are not wrong. I remember telling my dear Jitaku, I was like, okay, you don't understand. Ultra 7 has this fairly early episode with Metron, Alien Metron, and the stinger is going to drop so hard that I'm just going to let you experience it and see if your reaction's the same as mine. Guess what? It was the same as mine, because his jaw hit the frickin' floor. And it was just like, oh my god! They just mic dropped us so hard!
The Alien Metron episode, you know what? Honestly, it's such a good twist that I think that we should tell them.
Alright, so, first off, you gotta remember, the general culture was different in some ways and very much the same in many others. And the whole thing is people just start randomly attacking other people. No real reason. And then, after a little bit of time, they just mellow out, and they're fine, and they don't remember why they were attacking people at all. And they start investigating, and they find these weird alien seeds inside of cigarettes. Because remember, this was a smoking culture. That was very much the norm.
You also have to understand this is the 60s in Japan. This is back in the day when, like the Flintstones were advertising cigarettes, and cigarettes were considered good for you. It's like, as wild as it was to consider it, that actually was the way things were back then. So,
yeah, So, Ultra 7 and Moroboshi Dan starts looking into what's going on, and it gets to a point where he runs into this alien Metron, and Metron is like, I am so certain that my plan will work. I'm not even going to fight you. I'm literally sitting at a coffee table. And he's like, sit down.
Just so you can imagine it in your head, you have to understand Alien Metron basically looks like a giant shrimp dude. And so it's this human guy, and he knocks at the door, and this shrimp dude's like, Dan Moroboshi, or Ultra 7 as you're known by the humans. Come, sit down. And it's just, so they just have this conversation with this shrimp thing.
And he's just like, no, you don't understand. My plan is simple. I don't have to lift a finger to conquer this planet. They'll take care of it for me. He's like, yeah, I'm lacing these red seeds into the cigarettes, which when people smoke them, drives them berserk. Now, it's only temporary. It does wear off, but guess what? It will do its job, because people will get to the point where they won't know who to trust, so they'll choose to trust no one at all. And he's just like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And so Ultra 7 goes to try to stave off the source of these red seeds. And, ultimately he succeeds. It's a superhero show. So Metron flies away, shaking his fist, yada yada. And the narrator decides to, calm the children of the era by saying, you can tell the story happens in a distant future, and one that could never happen today, because this requires a level of trust that humanity hasn't even achieved yet. And I was just like, oh my god, Ultra 7 just mic dropped, like, the sum whole of humankind.
There were a number of episodes that were like that. Like, honestly, the Metron episode was like that. The Puppet Master episode was like that. The one where it was the alien cyborg that was using alien rays in order to transform weapons, children's toys, guns, and weapons into actual weapons. And he's like, and just think about it. If I give them enough children enough weapons, eventually it will cause the next nuclear war, and that will be the most wonderful, playtime of all. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh my god. Or there was another episode, actually, where there was, basically it was Blade Runner, where there were androids infiltrating the Ultra Guard in order to infiltrate human society so that they could take over because they needed new humans because they had taken over their society on their planet and they were running out of humans, that they were literally running through death games as a form of entertainment. And these androids would watch humans kill each other on these gigantic 1960s cathode ray televisions. And that was what their entertainment was. And they were like literally had it down to like, we are going to run out of humans within so many weeks if we keep killing them. But we have to kill them because we got to keep our ratings up. And I'm like, I wonder what they're making a commentary on. I don't know.
You know, an equally subtle episode was the time when they're like, guys, we have made the new ultimate weapon. This thing puts the atom bomb to absolute shame because we can literally like wipe out an entire planet's worth of civilizations with this bad boy. And we're going to test it on this random meteor where we are 100% certain nothing lives. And they basically just nuke this meteor. And it's not even that it incinerates the Earth that it hits. It's gone. Just absolute vaporization. And guess what? Turns out something did live there. And they're like, oh, you just like hit us unprovoked with some kind of super weapon. So we're going to build our own super weapon and we're going to throw it right back at you. And it'll be 10 times worse than the one you hit us with. And so the Ultra Guard goes, oh man, they have a weapon 10 times worse than our ultimate super weapon? We better make a weapon that's 10 times worse than their super weapon. And Moriboshi is just like, guys, where does it stop? Where does it stop? And they're like, oh, it stops when they're all dead. And he's like, that's a terrible answer. You get why that's a terrible answer, right?
And you wonder why later on there are the bits where there's Ultraman or Ultra 7's superior literally telling him to head back. And he's like, no, you don't understand. These barbaric humans are not worth saving. You are going to die if you keep doing this. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, Ultraman Superior does have a point. The Ultra Guard does get itself into ridiculous situations an awful lot.
Yeah, like, way, way more than they can rightfully justify. It's stuff like that, where they're just like, oopsie, we accidentally everythinged.
Or like episode 23, I want to say, where's the one where they kind of realize that Ultra 7 is so overpowered that he needed another weakness because he has a color timer in the way that Ultraman does. But it doesn't really ever, like, in the usual Ultraman thing, when Ultraman's fighting in his giant form, he only has about 3 minutes. And these are, Namekian minutes, because if you don't actually have a timer and you're like, oh, I'm going to count to see how long it's just whatever is dramatically appropriate.
Oh, it's just the timer can be reduced. If like there was an episode where he's in a blizzard and his timer was like reduced to like a minute because
that was the thing, is that the cold actually weakens Ultra 7. He's actually more susceptible to the cold. But the entire thing with that was the fact that they were actually aliens trying to terraform Earth and going, don't worry, this is not even something that, we are doing. We're just exacerbating something that's already happening. Your friends, your little human friends, are doing this to the Earth already. And you have to remember, in the 1970s, 1960s, 1970s, that's what they thought, that, that industrialization was going to cause the great next ice age. Woo.
Yeah.
But it's okay, guys. It's okay. Alien Pegas, or the Guts aliens, or Alien Zeton are going to kill humanity before the next ice age happens. I promise you, because don't worry, there's going to be like a 16-car alien pile-up of monsters that are going to destroy the human race before this happens.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that, there's Alien Zeton, and then there's the Kaiju Zeton. But they're two completely different things, because one of them's like just a regular human-sized thing with like it's like a human tapeworm, and the other one is a cockroach space dragon.
It's Ultraman's kind of weird. Did you know that?
No, I would not have known that other.
Yeah. So we're gonna speed run the next couple real quick. There's Ultraman Jack. And the funny thing is, it's not called Ultraman Jack. In fact, it was called The Return of Ultraman. But it wasn't. It was a completely different Ultra. In fact, Ultraman and Ultra 7 show up at the end of his series to help him out, and they're both referred to as Ultraman. The only difference is they call Shin Hayata's Ultraman the older Ultraman, and it was later retconned into being Ultraman Jack.
You have to, also understand that I want to say it's like Ultraman 80 when he's finally known as Jack. Ultraman is not.
It took a while.
Ultraman is not foreign to retcons. There are lots of retcons, but the beautiful thing about it is basically every series is connected. You can rest assured knowing pretty much everything is connected, and all the Ultras are all good guys, and they're all together in a team. That's a thing that That's a thing.
Yep.
I would. We probably should go back and now we can now that we've talked about Ultra 7, we can take that pin out of why he was crucified, because we probably should address that before we continue, because it is such a huge part of him as a character in the franchise, not just Ultra 7 but Ultraman in general.
Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. I want you guys to stay with me as I explain this, and stop me if you've heard a story like this before. Because there is a place somewhere far, far away called the Land of Light. And in this Land of Light, there is peace, there is harmony, there is plenty, and it is ruled by an all-powerful king who once died to save the universe from the ultimate evil and revived again later with some help from one of his children. And now these magnificent creatures of light go throughout the universe and watch over smaller, lesser races who are incapable of helping themselves from evils and terrors far beyond their comprehension. Any of this ringing any bells out there is, I guess, what I'm asking.
Oh, I was going to say, literally, there was one of their members who, in the ancient past, stopped a literal flood of giant monsters from destroying the Earth. And they have, statues of him. And they're like, this guy saved us. And you're like, what's that guy's name? Oh, he's Noah.
Golly, that sure is interesting.
Ultraman Nexus was weirdly in order to pick up on that that one thing from that one episode, episode 7 of the very first series, and they're like, yeah, that was Ultraman Noah. That was that's what was going on there. You're like, wow, that's a deep cut.
Eiji Tsuburaya was a very deeply, devoutly Christian man. And Ultraman is a big Jesus metaphor. It's not subtle at all. And so it gets so unsubtle that around the time, I think the last time this happened was in Ginga, the Ultras have this planet that they don't really like going to, called Golgotha. And Golgotha sucks to be an Ultra while you're there, because Ultras don't like cold, because Ultras are associated with light, with heat, with metabolism, kinetics, energy. And Golgotha is pretty much 1 or 2 degrees away from being absolute zero. Life does not live there in any capacity, and going there for an Ultra is unpleasant and fatal if left long enough. So, the Guts aliens, deciding to crucify Ultra 7 as a message to the broader strokes of humanity, decide, we can take this plan one step further, guys. And during the events of Ultraman Taro, they crucify Ultraman, Ultra 7, and Jack, and Ace, I believe, were all crucified on this ice planet. And they're like, oh, like, no, this happened more than that, because it happened in Ace, with Jack, Ultraman, and Seven being crucified. And it happened again in Taro, with all of his predecessors getting crucified, too. Yeah, there's a reason they don't like going to Planet Golgotha. And, again, this happened as recently as Ginga.
Oh, I was about to say, wasn't that an Ultra Kaiju fight? I remember the planet Golgotha being a place that they talked about because Belial had a prison of Kaiju there, if I remember right.
Yeah, he has some kind of base there, but even he doesn't like going there for very long. Though now Belial is powered by pure darkness, so it's a little different for him.
Powered by evil, like kicking puppies and being mean to people online.
Actually, that's more true than you might expect, given there was a bumper Subaraya made for one of their TV movies that had Belial talking on a cell phone very loudly while sitting in a movie theater.
Yes, and they all spacey and beamed in. Speaking of Christianity, the hand movement, the reason why it's the way that is, look at
Where
it.
he crosses his arms.
Yeah, it literally is supposed to be a cross. They are using the power of the cross to kill evil.
Yep.
So yeah,
now some Ultras have a different takes on this. Like Ultraman 66 puts his hand at about the mid forearm, whereas 7 I think was closer to the wrist. But the motion is still very consistently the same.
Yeah, you still form a cross. It's just how big of a cross you're doing. Yeah.
Yep. I think the first one to deviate from that was Taro, who actually puts his fist into his other hand and makes kind of an inverted L instead.
Yeah.
Most Ultras cross their arms.
Although, 7 usually doesn't even use a Spacian beam. He has, the Ice Slugger, because, he don't mess around.
He does have a beam weapon. His is just used a little differently because it's mounted on his head. There was a little bit of debate in the early development period as to is Ultraman representative of his species, or was he supposed to be like an officer in uniform? So they kind of went back and forth on it. And in fact, one of the early Ultras was supposed to be blue instead of silver and red. But since the special effects were blue screened, that wouldn't work very well. Now, there are blue Ultras now, just not back then.
I'll tell you something else, though. Did you ever wonder, actually, I just learned about this the other day, did you ever wonder why your boy Red King is called Red King when he's not actually red at all? He's like a weird yellowish color.
That is a very good question. Do tell.
Because, actually, in the early drafts for Ultraman, he was supposed to be known as Red Man. But later on, this was retconned to be Red King because he was supposed to be the king or the leader of the kaiju. Now, this was later changed to be him being an alien cop, but the name Red King stuck, and they just used it for giant pinhead corn on the cob dinosaur brawler. So it literally is, well, it's a cool name. We're going to use it. What do you mean it doesn't make sense? We'll fix it in post. This is going to be black and white anyway.
Yeah, that is a thing, all right. There's some odd name choices. And the thing to bear in mind is every Ultra series kind of has its own tone. Around the time of going from Ultraman Jack to Ultraman Ace, Jack is a little more relaxed. Ultra 7 was a little bit more hardcore, so they kind of dialed things back.
Hardcore. They threatened planetary genocide more than at least 5 times. Excuse me.
And there's literally a bit where. Yeah, there's also a bit where 7 literally slits a monster's throat with his Ice Slugger because he's so frustrated from the fight that he just can't do it anymore. 7 got a little hardcore at times.
What are you talking about there, Professor? Don't you know that, humans will forgive anything as long as it's a pretty girl? Now take care of it, Ella King. Don't lose your head over things.
Ellie King didn't. Ellie King was just trying to be a good boy. He was just raised by bad influences.
Yeah.
So, Jack was a little more relaxed and kind of followed a very, very predictable pattern of Hideki Go. And he joins his version of the Science Patrol. And every episode, it's, you're a loose cannon, Go, you're off the team. And he's like, well, I'll fix the problem myself. And then Go fixes the problem by himself. And the commander's like, well, I guess you're back on the team, Go, but don't do it again.
Hideki Go, more like Hideki Yo, because he's going back and forth. Got him.
Nailed it. Yep.
Sorry, please continue.
Return of Ultraman, I didn't like that much. It has some good episodes. I think my favorite one was relatively early on, and it was the one where there was like the weird haunted apartment complex that exists in a time loop. And they go inside and they're just like going through these weird liminal apartments over and over and over again. So that one was interesting. It explored some good themes, but on the whole, it was a little bit samey episode to episode. And I know it's a popular series, it just didn't really do it for me.
Honestly, I was more enamored with her Ultraman Taro, with the entire curse of the turtle kaiju mom that was kept killing fishermen. And I'm like, okay, this is simultaneously a Godzilla and a horror monster. This is kind of cool.
Which is
that
funny.
Was when I was like, all right.
Taro was supposed to be a relaxation arc by comparison, because the one that happened between Jack and Taro was Ace. And Ace, oh man, Ace has quite the body count. Like, people are dropping dead left and right in Ace. And let's talk about that. There is a controversial moment in Ace. The 1970s, like we said, it was a different time. So Ace was actually made up of two human hosts. Minami and... why am I not pulling names out of a hat? I watched this entire series.
How dare you, Professor? You cheated on me with Ultraman. You cheated on me. I didn't watch Ultraman Ace.
Seiji Hokuto and Yuko Minami. Originally, they had to work together to become Ultraman Ace. And apparently there was a parental backlash against this decision, because, don't shoot the messenger, but women were not perceived to be great superheroes. So it was also weird that a woman became an Ultra Man. Don't talk about where Mother of Ultra's costume comes from.
I don't care what you're talking about. Maria has huge personality, okay? She's got huge specium beams, okay?
All true. So
she's got
eventually... eventually...
She does.
Oh, she does. It's also uncomfortable because that's a man in the suit for Ultraman Taro. It was a male suit actor for Mother of Ultra, which is why he is not credited in any of the episodes that Mother of Ultra appears in.
Well, that was then. Now there are actually token actresses. I know this because I watched Makai Night Garo, and let me tell you. There's some definite acting going on there.
So eventually it's revealed that Minami is able to help Hokuto because she's not human. She's a Lunarian princess from a fallen lunar kingdom. And she goes to the moon in order to support from afar and to rebuild the lunar kingdom. So Hokuto is the official canon Ace.
As you do. And you were joking before about, us going to the moon in our comics.
It's true.
Don't worry, guys. I need to go to the moon. Okay, bye.
But the funny thing is, in Ace's theme song, Song of Ace, it specifically names Hokuto and Minami as Ultraman Ace, and they never changed the song. So even in the part of the series where Minami is no longer part of the Ace fusion, her name is still part of the theme song as if she was. That's how slapdash this decision was made.
Well, it's like, what was it? Amazon. Wasn't he about the same time as Ace? And he basically had this similar. We had a. It wasn't like, oh, women. Am I right, fellas? But more, like, I can't believe that my young child tried to bite off his little brother's head, and trying to go.
Trying to karate chop dinosaurs and having a bunch of shaving cream come out.
Yeah.
Tokusatsu is wild, man.
70s Tokusatsu is really wild.
Yeah, yes, it is. Ace was interesting. I liked it, I guess. I had mixed feelings because some episodes kind of felt like they were kind of pointless, ultimately. The ending, however, I thought was really compelling because it's basically a huge Mexican standoff where the whole thing is the powers of Ace are limited by a few factors. The first and most immediate was that Hokuto and Minami had to be on the same page to become Ace in the first place. So if they were having a disagreement, Ace couldn't be formed. Later in the series, Hokuto had a different restriction where he had to keep his identity secret. If he ever revealed it, he would be stuck in his UltraMan form and never able to return to his Hokuto state. This is immediately retconned in UltraMan Taro, by the way.
It's okay, guys. We'll just
episode,
become Nanto then.
I see what you did there.
That's a joke no one will get except for maybe you and Noodle.
Yeah. So Ace, at the end, is basically being held hostage. And, like, the alien has possessed this little kid. And he's like, oh, I'm, like, deliberately going to get all these little kids killed unless you tell everyone that you're actually Ultraman Ace. And he's like, fine. And the alien goes, nani? And he's like, I am Ultraman Ace. I've been Ultraman Ace the entire time. And he transforms and just blows up the alien ship. And he's like, fine, maybe I am stuck as an Ultraman now. But here's the thing. I can do a lot more good as Ultraman Ace than I can as Seiichi Hokuto. And he has this speech at the end that I actually really liked. And he's like, be good to each other and never stop trying to make friends with people from other cultures. Because eventually there will come a day when humanity can work together in a way that the Ultras already do. And I was like, you know what? Given all the times foreign companies have screwed over Subaraya, that's actually kind of a poignant message, and I was impressed that was the direction they decided to go with it.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about, what the 90s, radical version of the Ultraman would be, but it would be, like, well, no, there's these two power bracelets, and we need to jump backwards at each other while, going radical transformation, bro.
We did, though. We kind of did get that, though. That was Ultraman the Ultimate Hero, or Ultraman Powered. That's a few series off. Let's stay chronological for now. Because next was your boy, Ultraman Taro.
I was about to say, I really like Taro just because it kind of kept a lot of the, like, viscerality. There's a lot of... like, one of the very first things that happens in Taro is one of the Chojin, or the Choju, the super monsters that Yapul was using to try and kill Ace, basically gets bored by one of the new kaiju, the new Dai Kaiju, or super monsters, and it's really hilarious and also, like, really, really, really gory in, like, that really goofy, low budget, practical effects kind of way. But I think that's probably one of the, it really is one of the, like, it's very indicative of the way Taro is. It's really gory. It probably is not something that small children will really be watching. But I know for a fact that, like, little Titaku, if he saw that, would have been like, holy cow, that's awesome! That dude got just dissolved, like, instantly. That is crazy. And then the funny thing is Taro shows up and immediately, like, bisects the monster and blows him up. And the funny thing about that particular kaiju, too, is the fact that as he like, has this, like, hysterical, like crazy person laugh he does the entire time. And when he gets killed, there's this bit where they just have this like like, oh, here's the replay, and so it just shows him blowing up and blowing up and blowing up and blowing up as he's just doing the even as he's dying, and it's like, that is so demented, and yet it is perfect. It's perfect because the entire thing with Taro is it's basically supposed to be like a modern day fairy tale. And what is a fairy tale if not being incredibly dark? And yet, it's for kids. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Taro, by comparison, Taro was very light-hearted, and it was also one to deeply explore family dynamics, which is a first for the Ultras. Most of the Ultras that came before him were basically grown single men who would already have jobs, and they'd already be established in the world. Taro was kind of just off the boat after a long hiatus in another country, and suddenly Mother of Ultra is like, hey, by the way, you seem like a good fit, so like maybe my son and you can work together. And he's just like, I mean, the alternative is literally me dying, so yeah, all right, let's do this. And Taro.
Well, speaking of which, the funny thing is if you actually look at the very first episode, it makes the implication that Taro is being born at that moment. But if you see later on in the series, and even further later on in Ultraman Ginga, it makes the implication there, because of flashbacks that Taro has, that he actually had a childhood as a silver giant in the Land of Light, which, doesn't make sense with the fact that they're like, oh yeah, Taro is being born, in this moment. It's like, no, he was a babby. He was a babby before this.
He is a babby and had a childhood.
There is actually this episode in Ginga about fathers where he explains to the main character about how, he had problems with his own father being disapproving of him too. So, yeah, he had a childhood.
He did. He definitely did. And in fact, one of my favorite episodes is this goofy kaiju that is basically made out of mochi, and they defeat it because Father of Ultra shows up, and him and Taro take out a hammer and just mash the kaiju into mochi, and are like taking turns smacking it with a hammer.
I thought the monster was the pestle, the thing that they were slapping the mochi into.
Yes, you're right. They turned the monster into the pestle. I'm sorry. I only saw the episode once, and it's been like a couple years now. But like, it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a tokusatsu show.
Yeah, so
he's just Taro's having the time of his life.
Yeah, so Taro is just smacking him with this mochi hammer, and Father of Ultra, his dad, is literally just standing there nodding like, "Yes, son, that's how you slap him. You gotta hit him with a hammer."
Yeah.
Of course, Father of Ultra, once again, does not mess around, because he kind of has some of that, Ultra 7 in him. He's got some of that dog in him, where he just does not take prisoners. You kind of get the sense that, there's two schools of thought in the Land of Light. There is the, maybe we're not so different after all, and then there's the, no, evil is evil, and we're not taking prisoners. And you'll have like Ginga and Ultraman 66 and Taro on one side, and then you have Seven and Leo and the guys who just do not mess around because they've just seen some stuff.
Yeah, no, that is true. And in fact, the next is Leo. Leo is definitely a bit darker. In fact, it's so dark, it kind of stopped Ultraman from being a thing for the next 5 years.
What are you talking about? The fact that they murdered a single father? in the third
They
episode.
murder a single father. They blow up Leo's home planet. Oh, by the way, Ultraman Leo and Ultraman Astra were born identical twin brothers. But you're going, Snek, that makes no sense. They can't be, because they look totally different. Yeah, that's because after the reconstructive surgery to put Astra back together again, that's the best that Mother of Ultra could do. That's why he looks like that. Ultraman Leo explores some dark concepts, okay?
Wow.
Yes, they were born identical twin brothers.
When Mary, Mother of God, literally goes down from her alien, heavenly palace and goes, "I'm sorry, boys, that's the best I can do." And you're going, "Damn, you got messed up." You got hit by every branch on that ugly kaiju tree.
I mean, actually, Astra is grateful to her for basically giving him a face, given that he almost lost his entire head when the Leo... Here's the thing. Ultraman Leo is not a true Ultra. He is not from the Land of Light. He is from a different planet somewhere in the constellation of Leo. And their planet just gets blown up. It's gone. And Leo and Astra are the last survivors. And so when they transform, they don't get a 3-minute timer. Theirs is actually 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And you're like, that's not that big of a difference. Yeah, I know. But technically speaking, they're not Ultras from the Land of Light. They're a species that happen to have a very similar convergent evolution, is the explanation. And eventually, they're actually adopted by Ultraman King himself as his right and left hand assistants. So, Leo, despite not being the most popular series, still holds a very important place in the Ultraman pantheon. Now, from here going forward, things are going to get a little muddier, because there's a lot of series and we haven't seen them all. So, at this point, we're going to start cherry picking.
I actually really like Leo, partially because Dan Moriboshi shows up and beats the crap out of him. Also because he has a really distinctive design, and honestly, he has a lot of hard stuff going on with him. So, he's an underdog. I like him.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, Ultra 7 trains Ultraman Leo. So when Ultra 7 has his son, Ultraman Zero, he asks Leo to train him. And we don't really see what happens, but after the fact, Zero starts using it as a threat. Like when he meets Rube, he's like, "You two, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to have you guys train under Leo." And they're just like, "Who's Leo, and why does that sound terrifying?"
Meanwhile, Leo's just, having Vietnam PTSD flashbacks to the time that Dan Moriboshi had to run him over with a car. This happened, by the way. The entire joke in Dragon Ball Z Abridged about dodge. It's like, no, Dan took this to the.
He does that.
Yeah, he actually does that. It's kind of goofy and hilarious, and you're like, oh god. Dan Moriboshi, what happened to you between Ultra 7 and now?
So we're going to start cherry picking going forward. Like I said, we haven't seen all of these series, and so we can only kind of give recommendations based on what we have and haven't seen. So I'm going to give a special shout out to Ultraman the Ultimate Hero, Ultraman Powered in Japan. Not because it's particularly good, but because the suit design is incredible. In fact, they actually made the suits look so good that the suits themselves were actually super brittle and got destroyed really, really, really super easily. So they couldn't really pull out the stops with all the crazy WWE space alien wrestling that normally happens in these series. It's definitely a novelty.
There were later versions of them, because a lot of these characters will show up in big character series-wide specials. And I remember there was one where Ultraman from Towards the Future and Ultraman Powered show up as a tag team in order to fight, I want to say Zeton. And I'm like, and you were like, oh yeah, it's those guys. That's really cool that they paired them up. And it's like, oh, I didn't think that they remembered them.
Ultraman Towards the Future was also known as Ultraman Great and was an Australian production. And he was the first Ultraman to have a green color timer. Most of them up until that point had been blue. And Great was I only saw a few episodes of Great, but it was kind of the environmentalist Ultraman because that was 90 to 91, and the big environmental movement was just kind of getting underway. So that was kind of a thing at the time. And so, yeah, the two Western Ultras, Great and Powered, are like canonically friends and help train upcoming Ultras, including Ultraman Reboot, the Indonesian made Ultraman.
Yeah, and then there's Taiga and Dinah, which I have not seen, but I want to say Taiga actually was dubbed by Four
T-
Kids.
Tiga, and about half of it got dubbed before it actually got canceled. And I saw a little bit of it, and I can tell you the reason why. Because they weren't sure if they were wanting to make it its own abridged series or if they wanted to treat it perfectly straight. Because Tiga was kind of a rebirth. It was the first full series since Ultraman 80. There had been a few animes and there had been a few short films, and then there was the two Western-made Ultras. But Tiga was the start of the Heisei era Ultramen, which was 96 to 97.
Because at this point,
Tiga, Dinah, and Gaia share continuity.
and if you're familiar with these things like we are, and you go, but what about Gridman? Wasn't he in 1990? Well, okay, he wasn't technically known as an Ultra then because the Ultra multiverse wasn't really a thing until Ultraman Max. So, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of had to figure it out as we went. I've seen a little bit of Tiga, and I like Tiga. And I think a lot of Tiga, a lot of his popularity, I think, stems from the fact that he was the first in Ultraman 80 ended in 81. So he was the first Ultra in 15 years. Big deal. That, like, I'm not being sarcastic. That is a big deal. Ultraman is a big deal culturally in Japan.
Are you saying that he is the Scarlet Devil Mansion of Ultraman?
I mean, yeah, kind of.
Just because he was the entry point that he was popular?
Yeah, I'm going to say it. Tiga's a little overrated. Did I like Tiga? Yes, I liked Tiga. I think that his hype is blown a little bit out of proportion. In terms of the early Ultras,
I like his design. I think he looks cool. I'll say that. I haven't really seen the series, so I can't say anything.
In terms of the early Ultras that were just a few years after Tiga, Dinah, and Gaia, the first one that I would really recommend would be Cosmos, which is interesting as Cosmos was kind of a behind-the-scenes CF. The whole thing with Cosmos, and I talked about this in our Heroes of Kindness episode, was Cosmos was a little bit of a bleeding heart. He didn't like killing He didn't like killing any kind of kaiju or anything really if he could reasonably avoid doing so, which is hilarious because Cosmos is part of the fusion that creates Ultraman Legend, who was known as one of the greatest Ultra Warriors to ever exist in the Land of Light's history. So, yeah, Cosmos is interesting, if nothing else.
Okay, you're going to have to forgive me my understanding of the chronology at this point. I know that...
next would be your boy Nexus, actually.
Oh, okay, Noah. I really like Noah because, honestly, it kind of reminds me of Makai Knight Garo from Ultraman. And I think it's they're both really cool. And I understand why both of them are kind of niche. But being edgy and, enjoying tokusatsu, I think that, edgy adult tokusatsu for edgy adults like myself is, I'm like, wow, I'm one of those things. You're edgy and an adult. Well, I'm definitely an adult. So.
Yep. So, Nexus actually ties back into that whole Ultraman Noah thing, a reference back to 1966's Ultraman. So, I'm not going to spoil that one because honestly, it's really, really good. But Nexus is a bit dark. There is a reason, and like I said, Cosmos was a bit of an issue behind the scenes. There was a 2-year gap from 2002 to 2004 before the next Ultra dropped with Nexus. And Nexus, Max, and Mebius also kind of had a huge delay after the fact. And I've heard mixed reviews about them. I have not seen Max and Mebius. It wasn't until 2013 that another Ultra would follow.
Well, the problem being is the fact that, as I understand it, Max basically was like so expensive that it pretty much bankrupted Tsuburaya. And so Mebius was basically them trying to, just have their last series to wrap everything up, which is why the Ultraman multiverse was kind of a thing, was established. So it basically was the Fire Emblem Awakening, and so a lot of people actually say that it's like probably the best series. Probably not the best series to start with, but it is one of the best series, basically because it was Tsuburaya going, so long and thanks for all the fish, guys. It's been real, But
Yep. And so then we leave the Heisei era for the new generation Ultras. In 2013, we got Ultraman Ginga. And Ginga was also a little weird because Ginga, as I read, and this could be mistaken, this is all translated sources, so you know how that goes. Ginga was supposed to be a crossover with Kamen Rider Fourze. That's why they both have a high school theme. They both launched in the same year, and as an Easter egg to this fact, Ultraman Ginga and Kamen Rider Fourze are the only Rider Ultra combo to get a dual special attack. So you see them. You also see the main characters have a lot in common. If you saw the main character of Ginga and the main character of Fourze, you'd be like, yeah, those two would be best friends, and they'd be absolutely insufferable because of how wholesome they are together.
I'm now imagining Fourze, talking to a doll of Taro, and that is hilarious to me.
Ginga introduced the Spark Dolls, and they're actually available in the West. I actually have 4 myself of 66, Ginga, Zero, and Z, or Zet, as he is commonly referred to.
And this professor got me Ella King and Ultra 7.
Yep. Because they're really nice. They're nice little collectibles. They're super durable, and they're just really nice little decorations. If you want really high articulation, you're going to be shelling out for something that's a whole lot nicer. But if you just want a nice little, ornament little guy, the Spark Dolls run you maybe $8 to $10, depending on which one you're getting.
Mm-hmm. And Ginga the cool thing is pretty much all of the main kaiju. You can get pretty much any.
Yep.
I mean, unless you're like going into like really obscure things like Alien Orphe from Taro. I mean, yeah,
you're kind of out of luck. See if that one's a Spark Doll.
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. He only showed up once, but I mean, hey man, you go for it. Go and look. I'm curious.
So, Ultraman Ginga is a very fun series. It's very silly. It is not taking itself seriously in the slightest. And most of the episodes, it's the main characters just being kind of goofy. He's this really honest nerd type, and it's basically him just making friends after them being apart for a few years, after their school, after they graduated, and are meeting up again for the first time in a while. If you want a more standardized Ultraman experience, the sequel series, Ginga S, is more like a classical Ultraman series, and I think that's really where the series found its legs.
Honestly, I'm going to say this now, and this is actually a pretty unpopular opinion. Actually, I think Ginga S is the better series. I like Ginga, but it is very clear that it is like, guys, we're making a new Ultraman series. What's our budget? And it empties pockets, gets 50 yen coin into shoelace. There you go. Well, I guess I'm going to have to stretch this shoelace. They like spend
okay, guys,
no
we're gonna have
money.
A moving Spark Doll.
They have no money. There's like there are very, very few special effects shots. And I'm not saying they did a bad job. It's actually really, really cute. And the way they had Dark Lugiel revealed ultimately at the very end, I was like, wow, that's actually a twist I did not see coming. That's crazy. But yep. I mean, yeah, it's very clear. Also I'm going to say this. Ginga S has my robot wife. She is
the robot waifu, yes.
She is so beautiful.
Man, I'm looking up her name. I'm looking up her name. Give me just one sec.
She sacrificed herself to save Ginga at the very end, so, you know. Although,
Yeah,
no,
Android 10. They referred to her as Mana.
she comes back in the movie, though, so she's not
Yep.
dead.
Yep, she actually comes back and she actually joins UPG, or their version of the Science Patrol.
Yeah. So.
The series that came after Ginga was UltraMan X.
X was
And
really good. I
X was
like
good.
X a lot.
X was solid. X was very wholesome. It had that. He's like trying really hard to be this good guy, and X is one of the Ultras that talks. Now the series have gone back and forth as to whether the human and Ultra are one person or if they're two separate people. And if they are two separate people, sometimes the Ultra doesn't like to talk, like in Ginga. Ginga barely spoke a word.
Well, Ginga is a time traveler from the future. He probably didn't want to mess around with time too much, you know.
Also that. X is a talker, and the thing is, he is a good-natured dork who is paired with a good-natured dork.
The thing with X is that they brought back the Spark Dolls, but they basically are like the Spark Dolls are effectively like a Pokemon system or kaiju.
Yep.
And so the Science Patrol of X will capture these kaiju and then proceed to put them into terrariums reminiscent of their home planet in order to acclimate them to Earth. And so, yeah, you have this guy who's like very enthusiastically like petting this little Gamora doll, just being like, there, buddy. Here, I brought you some volcanic rock, just like your whole planet. And I'm like, this is so nerdy and stupid, and yet at the same time, you're just being so earnest about it. Also, they had their wacky woohoo research and development guy was actually a alien Kanagon, I want to say, which I thought was awesome. So
he is just delightfully wacky.
Yes.
The next one we saw in sequence would be Ultraman Geed.
Geed, honestly, I would argue is one of the best ones to start with, because not only is it a good series, but him and Pega, his best friend slash, you know, his bro, his alien bro, have a really, really cute friendship. Like, it is very clear that they have known each other for like forever, and that's basically the way they bicker, and they have like stupid little in-jokes. That's basically the way male friendship works. You hear that,
Yep.
fangirls? You want to see the way that two men interact? That's basically the way they interact. It's not, you know, what you look at when you go to your special section that's behind, you know, the curtain at the one store that smells like fish market. Just gonna let that sit there.
It's okay, we're an
Just
hour
like-
and 20 into this. No one's listening by now.
I do.
Leave a comment down below right now if you're still watching.
I do. Shut up, Jimmy.
Geed was one of the first modern Ultras that we got to watch. And honestly, I'm glad it was. In terms of starting places, it's a great spot because not only does it introduce the concept of Ultras very gently, it also introduces Ultraman Zero, who's a recurring protagonist who helps several of the Ultras in the new generation. Geed himself...
Ultraman Belial, and holy crap, we cannot kill this guy. We have killed him 3 times. How is he still alive?
And the thing that Geed has this mantra that he repeats basically a few times an episode, and it's standing around doing nothing won't get us anywhere. And so he's always like, I have to do something. I have to get my hands in the game. And I'm going to let it just be a spoiler here. When we learn what the origin of some of his catchphrases are, it is one of the most disgustingly heartfelt and wholesome things in an Ultra series I've ever seen. Geed is a fantastic series that balances a really good, unified, continuous story with some of the intrigue of the greater Ultraman metaverse, because Zero can jump, between dimensions, that's his thing. And there's a good mixture of comedy, of action, and of really, really solid character development. In fact, one of my favorite bits is Zero ends up coming to Earth and befriends this human who's this kind of wormy businessman who's just he's just trying to live his life and take care of his wife and daughter, but he's terrified of these monsters and these aliens. He doesn't really want to get involved, but he can't help the fact that he has a really good heart. He wants to help. And he, of course, gets himself smashed under a building trying to save an innocent person during an alien attack. And Zero's like, aha, him. He is a brave warrior, and he will help me. So Zero revives him, as the Ultras are wont to do. And he's like, yes, you are a brave and powerful man. And the businessman's just like, what? I am? Are you sure?
And the funny thing is like, after he gets revived and he basically, he's there and he's like, he has his shirt all open and he's got, his hair slicked back and, he's not wearing his glasses anymore. And you could see his actress for his wife is like, very, very interested in him all of a sudden. And, his daughter's like, Daddy, you're here. And, whoa, Daddy, you're cool. It's like, yeah, being, possessed by an alien, changes something about you.
Yeah, Leto. His name is Leto. And when he's just being himself, he has his glasses on and he's making this kind of very soft expression. And then when Zero's in control, he whips his glasses off and slicks back his hair and he's all serious. And the way the actor does it is just so perfect. I absolutely loved his performance.
Mm-hmm. And actually, doesn't Zero show up again with Zet too? And he makes a mention of that because Jeed and him show up together as a pair, don't they?
In 2020's UltraMan Zet, Zet is basically proclaiming himself to be Zero's student, though Zero kind of denies this up until the end of the series. And along the way, Jeed and Zero do show up to help him. And there's this bit because Zet himself is like an Ultra fanboy. He's like, oh, you guys don't understand. Like, Jeed Senpai is super cool, and he saved the entire universe. And Jeed's like, whoa, let's not make a big deal out of this. And Zet's like, no, we're making a big deal out of this. And in one of the movies, Zero gets a new special form that normally he was only able to do with Leto's help. And Jeed even makes an aside where he's like, yeah, don't tell Leto about this. It'll make him super depressed.
Poor guy.
Yeah, no, Jeed is fantastic. That is definitely a easy in to the series. It's also on the Tokushoutsu website, so you can watch it for free, and it is fantastic.
Also, you didn't hear it from me. You didn't hear it from me, but it's entirely available for free on YouTube. It's not even that hard to find. But you didn't hear that from me. You just heard it, from places on the internet.
From a friend.
If you're really, really interested, you really should give it. The Mill Creek box sets, which contain the entire series, are not that expensive. So if you watch this and you go, wow, this is something I really like, just, please do support it. But I'm just saying, if you listen to these two, goofballs ramble for, 2 hours, and you're like, I don't know, then, give it a try. But, if you do enjoy it, please do support it, because it is good stuff. Subaraya Productions does good work.
They do.
But so,
I will say, in terms of excellent onboarding places, Jeed, in terms of the modern Ultras, is one of the best choices. The series that came after is Ultraman RB, or sometimes called Rube, because it's supposed to be Rousseau and Blue, because there's two lead Ultras, and they're brothers. And honestly, I really like Red and Blue. I have not finished the series, but from what I've seen of it so far, it's really fun. And they actually act like brothers. Like, sometimes they get mad at each other, and they're like, you're in my way, you're hassling me. And they actually have an elementalist theme. So, like, one's more fire, I think it's fire and earth, and the other one's water and wind. And it's just, Really, really well done stuff. Really fun series. And
Are
the
they
last one...
are they the ones with the little sister who is the green? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
Correct. Weirdly enough, she has the G name, but her entire design is actually orange. I don't 100% know, because was it the movie? Let me check. In the series, it's mostly Rousseau and blue, and then in some of the games and the movies, their sister becomes Ultra Woman Grigio. But I think in the main series, it's mostly just them. And, yeah, for some reason she has the G name, which would imply green, but like I said, her design is orange and silver. I need to finish that one, but I'm really liking it so far. And the next stop, and one of my personal favorite, if you wanted me, put a gun to my head, put a specium beam against my head, and was like, you have to pick one, Snek, this would be 2020's UltraMan Zet. UltraMan Zet is fantastic.
Oh, I was about to say, also they have Sevenger from Ultraman Leo showed up again, and he is awesome.
Yep.
And I want to say it's really funny because the episode they introduced Sevenger in, they have this one American actor, and he has the most hilarious delivery of Ultraman's back, and I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. Can you guys tell that Sue Mariah desperately wants to make Ultraman an international property? Can you guys tell? Because I sure can.
That episode is fantastic, by the way. And yeah, so like you have this really just solid series that takes a lot of love from the past series and really encapsulates it. And one of my favorite elements is when the Ultra can talk to their human counterpart. And Zet does that a lot. Zet is a talker, let's just say. And the whole thing is it starts with this discussion of the devil splinters, which are pieces, they're like cells from the battle with Ultraman Belial being blown across the universe. And like if a devil splinter jabs into a monster, it turns them into a corrupted Belial monster.
This guy cannot die, I swear to God.
he just won't. And so Zet meets Haruki, and once again, Haruki is such a good-natured doofus that he gets himself killed over a dog. And no, he survives that. I'm sorry. He actually dies when he's piloting Sevenger against the very first kaiju in the series. And he helps Ultraman Zet. And afterwards, Zet's like, hey, I am really sorry to tell you this, but we both just died. And we only get to continue living if we fuse together. I know this is a big surprise to you by this point in the explanation. We have to fuse together and become a hero to save this world. And I'm sorry, not Riku, that's Jeed. Haruki, it's like, yes, let's do it. Now, again, Jeed and Zero show up. Actually, Ultraman Ace shows up, which is a really cool episode, by the way. And you learn Ace is Zet's godfather and actually was the one who named Zet. Because continuity. How does this multiverse work? No one knows. No one cares.
It's like Zagorodon said in his, Ultraman 66 retrospective. Don't think about it too hard. You just gotta let it happen.
Yep. Especially because in one of the episodes, the thing to bear in mind is Zet was 2020's Ultraman. This is significant because there was an episode of Ultra Q called Challenge from the year 2020. One of the episodes in Zet is in direct continuity with it, called Return of the Challenge from 2020. And it's... Yeah, Re-Challenge from the year 2020, I'm sorry. and it's directly tied into it, and the person that Zet meets in that episode is supposed to be the same character from Ultra Q. That's how deep this rabbit hole goes. I love Zet. I love it so much. The theme song is awesome. The series is awesome. And it's been entirely dubbed into English and is freely available on Subaraya's official YouTube page. There is literally no reason to not watch it. Subaraya should be paying me for how much I talk about UltraMan.
Hey, Professor Snek here. Let me tell you about how much I like this UltraMan guy. He's so cool. He's so cool, so good. Now, don't mind me. I'm going to be here playing Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher now.
Yep, the second to last stop is going to be Ultraman Blazar, because I did not actually watch Trigger and Decker. Blazar, I'm only halfway in. I need to finish it, but Blazar was originally like billed as being the super dark Ultra. It is not. It is very silly. Blazar is this kind of wild Ultra. I haven't finished the series, so I don't really know what his deal is 100%, but he has this very asymmetrical design, and he has this very wild voice. And I don't really know where they're going with it, but I know for a fact that his energy manipulation is more melee focused than most Ultras. And in one episode in particular, he turns his energy spear into an energy fishing rod, so he can yank an aquatic kaiju out of the sea so he can fight it on dry land. I really like Blazar. I need to finish it. And at this point, let's talk briefly about Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher, because Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher is just fantastic. if ever there was a game that could be argued to be Monster Rancher 6, Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher would be it. It's one of those things where the Monster Rancher formula is used in such a clever way that you see these kaiju and you're like, oh, well, on this island, they're not monster ranchers, they're kaiju breeders. It's like, because someone on this island thinks this is a good idea. And I think the most interesting wrinkle added to it is specifically the rage mechanic. And when I first started the game, it scared me because I wasn't really sure what to make of it. Because they have fatigue and stress like they do in Monster Rancher, but the rage meter actually has some good sides. Kaiju are prone to throw temper tantrums. So when that rage meter maxes out, they have a rampage, and it can be different types of rampages. Sometimes the monster runs away from home, or sometimes they try to attack the town, or they'll try to pick a fight with another kaiju, or they'll try to pick a fight with an UltraMan, which never goes in their favor. In fact, I think it's a set event. The very first time your kaiju goes on a rampage, it will be intercepted, I believe, by Ultraman Zero, who basically just kicks your kaiju in the head, and he's like, hey, stop that. Don't let that happen again. But here's the thing. There's upsides to letting your kaiju rampage, because one of the events that can happen is your kaiju gets so mad and frustrated that it goes on a training hiatus and just comes back. And it's like, oh, its stat caps are inexplicably higher now because the kaiju's been training in secret. Oh, man. It's such a clever idea. And I mean, in terms of mechanical nuance and gameplay, it is a true Monster Rancher installment. In some ways, more than Monster Rancher 5/Evo, and in some ways, more than Monster Rancher DS was. And you can raise Suezos and Mochis, and you can even raise a Mochi Savenger or a Suezo Gankyu. Like... What more do you people need? It's really good, and you should get it. I still hold out.
I was about to say, it's one of those things that, we heard about it, and I was like, I heard about this, and I'm like, this is like they literally were picking into the professor's brain, and they're like, things that specifically Snek would like. And then I showed you, and you're like, I want to say something, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yep. They reached down into the Snek cranium and they made a video game based on what they found. I am hard pressed to find a crossover that would be more fitting and more aligned with my interests than Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher. And I'm still holding out that maybe someday we'll get a PC port. Maybe that'll happen. I hope it does. But I mean, Bamco was the one who helped with the production and distribution, so maybe not. If anyone has a Switch, you should get it because it is a good game. And yeah, I think that brings this whirlwind tour to a close, unless you can think of anything.
No, not really.
All right. So, if anything that we said today sounds interesting to you, just pick a series and dive in. Ultraman, unlike a lot of modern superheroes, is very true to his roots and origins. The Ultras are very thematically consistent, which is something that Marvel and DC cannot claim. So, in summary, pick one, dive in. I loved 66. I started with 66. I found a DVD box set that had the original dub that they did for it, which is quite an experience. and the Mill Creek DVD box sets are really great. They're really, really high quality. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. If you want something more modern, Jeed and Zet are my top recommendations. And, you know, you're feeling more retro, 66, Ultra 7, Taro, Leo, those are all fantastic. What about you, Master Dutaku? What would you say?
Honestly, Ultra 7, I love it. It is definitely like a product of its time, but at the same time, though, it really does have the same like DNA in it as the Outer Limits and the Twilight Zone, where it's like it's just dark and really, really high concept science fiction. And I'm a mature, science fiction enjoyer, and all about that. Also, the fact that Dan Moriboshi just is no nonsense. He just does not let any of the goofiness that Ultraman had to deal with, phase him at all. That being said, he encounters things that probably would have basically have been Zeton before Zeton or Ultraman 66. And if we're talking about more modern stuff, honestly, I think Ginga S are good. I don't know if I'd start with them, but if you want something more modern, definitely. Honestly, if you want a starting point that is more modern, I would say either X or G or Z. Haven't really watched Z apart from what I saw with you, Professor. But those are the ones I would do. Maybe Nexus, because it's not nearly as tied to the others, but bear in mind, though, it is also significantly darker and also not really indicative of the way that Ultraman is overall. It'd be like going into, what is it? That one black and white Spooderman, the one like Spooderman Noir. Is that it?
Oh, Noir. Yes.
Yeah. Noir. You read Spooderman Noir and you're like, well, why isn't he going? She walked into my office and I knew she was trouble. And you're like, why isn't Peter Parker monologuing? It's like, because Spooderman Noir is his own thing. That's basically Nexus. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just it's very much its own thing. So that's my take.
Fair to say.
Also, Ultraman Kaiju, Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher is really good. It is honestly, it makes a lot more. It's a lot more fun when you actually are familiar with the series. Because, for instance, Alien Metron, when you raise him, one of his attacks is literally to sit the other monster down at the table like he did with Ultra 7 in order to explain his evil plan, which debuffs the enemy. So, it's like one of those things where there's a lot of nods to the series, like the meta series. So.
No, that is true facts. There's a lot of references. In fact, there's another Metron attack that is the fanboy Metron from Ginga S waving glow sticks up and down at an idol concert. Metrons are super fun because of all the goofy references they get.
Does Gomora have any references to X, considering how, prominent he was in that series?
Not from what I've seen, but I don't think I've seen every attack Gomora has. I'll have to bug my buddy Master Fenric over at Legend Cup to see if that's the case. And yeah, I think that's our high mind overview. I think.
Oh, and if you guys want to see Snek do a Snek plays for Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher, go ahead and bully him, because I can't just be bullying him. We need to all bully him. This is a collective bullying.
Okay. I if there is a couple comments saying that's what you want, I will treat that as the 6th Monster Rancher title, because I'm not doing DS. Just being honest. But I'm making an amendment to the Unlock All Species clause, which will specifically say that I am not obligated to unlock 5 King. If I don't have to unlock 5 King, I can do everything else and do a full Let's Play of it in a reasonable amount of episodes. Just as long as we're clear on that.
I mean, that's fine with me. Honestly, I would, just wanted to see you go through and complete the story, but,
No, the story is great, especially because the final boss is not what you're going to expect it to be.
I'm just going to be like, okay, Snek, so now you have to complete the game, but with a Pigmon.
I don't think I've raised one of those yet.
Pigmon isn't a game, right?
I forget if he's raisable. Let me crack open Legend Cup real quick. Yes, he is. He is, and his subspecies are Baltan, Naranga, Red King, and Super Cove.
Oh my goodness. Alien Baltan Pigmon, he's going to kill himself before he ever starts fighting.
Yeah, probably. Looks like he's some kind of mixed attacker. That's not too bad. I could probably work with that.
Oh, so he's basically Mochi again. And once again, he's effectively a mascot character.
Kind of. No, actually, he skews more tank. He's a tank that actually has a decent speed stat. Looks like his worst stat overall is skill, but that's still a growth of 2, so that's not the worst I've seen. Yeah, I would take you up on that challenge.
Okay.
I'll shoot out a tweet about it. I'll shoot out a tweet about it right now and be like, would you guys want to see Ultra Kaiju Monster Rancher as the 6th?
Okay. All right. I'm going to say this. Rancher. You don't have to just solely use Pigmon. I'm just saying, like...
I will raise a Pigmon.
What really goofy kaiju,
Okay, so I think we've covered just about everything. So for now, everyone, like, comment, subscribe. If you have not already, tell us who your favorite Ultraman is, because we'd be curious to know. And this has been Master Ditaku.
I am now in my final 17th Spark Doll combination form. You have to buy all my playsets and toys.
Oh, that's tough. And the Ultra Snek. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Tomodachi Bros podcast. And we will see you in the next one.
Ultra Snek, Common Snekker, Ginga, Ultra Taro, Kikaider.
We'll see you guys next time.